Welcome. Thank you for joining me for the latest edition of ESPN.com's post-game temp check from Heat Index. I'm your reporter, your man, your point guy, Michael Wallace, coming to you live from American Airlines Arena, where they're basically closing down the gym after the Miami Heat closed out the Cleveland Cavaliers tonight, 107-91. To get their eighth win in their last 9 games, and they start on this 6-game road trip with a positive step. The Heat will be heading from here straight to the airport, and then heading on to Orlando, where they start that season-long 6-game road trip. But we'll talk about the road trip in a minute. First off, tonight, I just wanted to give you some initial thoughts, some feedback on what we saw, what transpired, and frankly, what does it all mean for the Miami Heat, who stay right on the heels of the Chicago Bulls for the best record in the East. So this was a game Miami had to win. It was another one of those games against a team coming in with a losing record, a team that frankly got up on Miami early and made them work. And then finally, when the Heat woke up in the fourth quarter, they woke up in a vicious way. And Cleveland had problems scoring. They couldn't get anything done. And Miami put this game away. So what we'll do to sort of organize the show as we get rolling, we're going to break it up in 3 segments. The first segment, I'll talk about tonight's game and what it means and the impact that it had. And then we'll take your questions, as we always do, on the post-game temp check. So I have some questions already loaded up in queue right here on my BlackBerry here, and I'll take your questions and respond to some of your comments. And then at the end, we'll look forward to this road trip and sort of break it down in terms of what the Heat could be facing. It's a daunting challenge. It's a 6-game trip, their longest, and it'll include their first back-to-back set of the season. So, we'll start it off, and I wrote up and took notes on this game, obviously, and came across with 5 things that impressed me most. And I'll start first and foremost with Miami's closing defense. This is a team that sort of toyed around with Cleveland, and give Cleveland credit. Kyrie Irving is going to be a superstar in this league. No, not just a star, a superstar. He's going to be a premier point guard, possibly a top 5 point guard in this league within the next 3 years. I see him as that type of talent. He has all the tools. I was just talking to someone courtside. A scout said he reminded him of a younger version of Isaiah Thomas, and I tend to agree with that. But first and foremost, what stood out to me was Miami's closing defense. In the fourth quarter, when this was a tight game, Cleveland had a lead, led by a few points. But in the fourth quarter, Miami turned up its defense, went to its closing unit, and forced Cleveland to miss 13 of its first 15 shots in the quarter. What that did, it allowed Miami to set up its closing unit. The unit started off with Shane Battier on the court, and then it ended up with Mike Miller taking over that spot. And when you hold a team to 2 of 15 shooting to start any quarter, that's going to give you a tremendous cushion. So Miami's cushion to start that fourth quarter is what made the difference in this game. It allowed them to go on the run to take a 10-point lead. And then from there, it was just close it down. It was give the ball to LeBron, clear out of his way, allow him to make some plays, allow Mike Miller to make some shots, allow Dwayne Wade to close, drive into the lane, and create what he can create. So again, they forced Cleveland to miss 13 of their first 15 shots, and for the game, Miami scored 21 points off of 17 Cleveland turnovers. So that was key number 1. Key number 2, and I'll get from here to individuals. Udonis Haslem. He's had by his standards, a horrible start to this season offensively. His shot has evaded him, and he just hasn't been able to get enough of a rhythm to really do anything at all. Well, tonight was sort of those aberration type nights. Maybe tonight was an oasis, something that can serve as a spark plug to get him going as he moves forward. But Udonis had a big game tonight. He had 14 points, and he finished with 8 rebounds off the bench. 14 points and 8 rebounds off the bench, and he sort of engineered that closing unit to shut down Cleveland at the end. What you have to like about Udonis is the fact that he made 4 of 6 shots from the field. He also made a couple of big free throws in the fourth quarter. So anytime Udonis can shoot 4 of 6 from the field, you got to take it, considering he's had a lot of 2 for 6, 1 for 7 type nights this season. He's basically been the last key cog of the guys that were primary rotation players on this team last year to really get going. So Udonis stepped up with a big game. Chris Bosh, what I saw from him tonight, and people have raised this question. I've gotten this one on Twitter, Facebook, and in our comments section at Heat Index is, basically what has happened to Chris Bosh since Dwayne Wade has come back from that injury. And we've seen Bosh's numbers dwindle from where they were when Dwayne Wade was out of the lineup for those 6 games. But Bosh sort of found his spots, found his rhythm, and there was one sequence that really stood out for Chris Bosh today, and that's one thing that I harp on Bosh a lot. I'm probably more disappointed in Bosh than any other guy that covers this team from the standpoint of I see potential greatness in him in terms of his tools, his length, his athleticism, his skill set, and he should clearly be a double-double a night, every night kind of guy. He's just not that. The opportunities haven't been there as much, and he would tell you that. But frankly, tonight was one of those nights where he impressed me with just one sequence. It started on the offensive end where he faced up. He could have settled for a 15-foot mid-range jumper. Instead, he took the ball straight to the hole, went around Samardo Samuels, and finished with a strong left-handed dunk with contact. And, I mean, that was a streak of nastiness that we don't see quite enough from Chris Bosh. And the more we see that, and the more the Miami Heat sees that specifically, the better off they're going to be moving forward as they get into these tougher battles in the spring and heading into the playoffs. But he dunked strong, drove to the lane, powered in the dunk over Samardo Samuels, who basically just dunked all over the Heat when the teams met here 2 weeks ago. But this was Bosh sort of reversing the tables here. And after he completed the dunk on the very next trip down court defensively, Bosh snagged a rebound in traffic. Just went over Anton Jameson and Samardo Samuels. 2 hands hauled down the rebound and initiated a break. So in just that sequence, you had a power dunk from Bosh and a strong rebound from him. And, that's the kind of Chris Bosh that I think the Miami Heat need. The jump shooting is nice. As he said, the jump shot loves him. He's going to continue to love it back until it betrays him. But this needs to be a power forward in the truest sense of the name, because Miami just doesn't have many other options down low on that block to do what Chris Bosh is capable of doing. So I know I rambled on about Chris a little bit much, but another thing that impressed me was Mike Miller in terms of the game that he played. Now, Mike has been a guy, obviously, we know about his injury history. We know that he's been hesitant at times last season. We know that he's capable of being a knockdown shooter, but also bring a lot of other things to the table. And tonight was one of those scrappy nights for Mike as he tries to find his rhythm and his role in this rotation that continually changes and is continuously fluid for the Miami Heat. He just went in there and did things tonight that this team needed. I mean, for him to come off the bench and get 9 rebounds, it seemed like every single loose ball had his hands on him. There was one streak in the fourth quarter where LeBron had back-to-back turnovers, and he was headed to a 3rd straight turnover, but Mike Miller reached in there, saved the possession with the deflection, and tipped the ball towards Dwayne Wade to keep a possession going offensively for the Miami Heat. So it was one of those things that Mike sort of did it all. He did a little bit of everything well, and that's the kind of Mike Miller that this Miami Heat team needs. Obviously, his shot is what's going to keep him on the court, what's going to get him on the court, the threat of his shot. But what's going to keep him on the court is his ability to do other things, to rebound, to defend, to box out, to keep possessions alive by diving on the floor. So this was one of the games where he felt proud about his accomplishments after the game. He's usually one of the first guys out of the locker room, and he raced out of it. But I had a chance to catch up with him after the game tonight to sort of get his comments on what happened here. But again, to wrap that up and, to wrap up what the players did and what this game was about tonight, the Miami Heat had one of their better efforts defensively. They held Cleveland to 39% shooting. Again, forced 17 turnovers that created 21 points. And they outscored Cleveland in the fourth quarter 29-19. So that sort of takes care of what this game was tonight and what it meant moving forward. What we've seen from this team tonight was a closeout in the fourth quarter that was reminiscent of what we saw a couple of nights ago, Friday night to be exact, in Philadelphia, where Miami went on that 15-0 run in the fourth quarter to put away the Sixers in what had been a close game up until that point. So this team's ability to come back with a knockout blow to these teams that they should beat continues to be impressive as they move forward. So with that said, now I'm going to move on to your part of the show where I take your questions, your comments, and your feedback from what you saw tonight and your concerns about this Heat team moving forward. So I'll start off from I believe this is from our Twitter feed. K. Pacanini, I believe is the name. Again, I'm going to butcher these names up on Twitter if you don't come with anything traditional and correct. So I'm going to apologize up front, but you know who you are. KPAKKINENI asks, and states basically, I love it when the Heat run. Why don't they run more set plays, though? Throwing full court passes is not always good. Well, this is a team that's going to take opportunities to go the length of the court with full court transition plays, and they're going to look for the break first. They call that the early offense, and that's one of the things that Coach Eric Spoelstra installed in his pace and space offensive attack that he implemented this summer coming into this season. So I could think of one play in particular where Udonis Haslem grabbed the rebound, turned up court, threw it the length of the court to LeBron James, who caught it, took one dribble, and flushed it right over Alonzo G. And those are the kind of plays that the Miami Heat try to make in transition. Udonis Haslem is one of the better outlet passers in the league from his position after getting rebounds. And when you have Dwayne Wade and LeBron James and guys like Norris Cole who can speed down the court, why not look for that early offense first and foremost as a priority? Next question here is from Greg Okada, Ochaita. He asks, what do you think about Miami's closing lineup, and how do you think that lineup will do against the Bulls? Well, that's a great question because we saw this lineup debut last playoffs in that conference finals series against the Bulls. That was the first series where Mike Miller and Udonis Haslem were able to play along with Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade, and LeBron James. And neither one of those guys were anywhere near 100%, but they were good enough to show the signs that they're capable of showing. The one concern that I have about that lineup, though, against those kind of playoff tested teams, the bigger teams, is that Miami doesn't have a true, rugged, big player to keep some of these bigger teams off the boards. And that's the concern right there. That lineup puts a lot of pressure on Udonis Haslem at 6'8" and Chris Bosh at 6'10", but a wiry 6'10", to eat up rebounds and save possessions and get tip backs and clear the defensive boards. I would like to see Miami get a little bit more size and a little bit more defense at the rim. Maybe sprinkle in some Joel Anthony there with the shot blocking presence every now and then, unless they are able to bring in someone at the trade deadline, but that's another question. So at this stage, that lineup is fine, but in the final 2 minutes of the game, when you need to get a crunch time rebound or defend someone from getting a drive to the basket, that's the only concern I have about that lineup. Offensively, they're efficient. When it comes to teams that play small, they can dominate those other teams. But again, there's a concern when they face a big team. Moving on to Steve McDonald. What do you think the Heat can do to address the issue of their three-point shooting defense? Well, that's simple. Close out. Get a hand up, close out, and not let guys, just wing the ball around and find you out of position. LeBron James and Dwayne Wade and Mario Chalmers are three guys that like to gamble a lot. They like to fill the passing lanes. They like to go for steals. They like to over pursue sometimes and get caught out of position. And that leads to a skip pass, wide open three-pointer. But Miami did a little bit better with that these last couple of games, and we'll see if they can continue that as they move forward. They're definitely going to need to be able to work on that going into Wednesday's game at Orlando, because no team in the league is better at whipping the ball around, playing inside out like the Magic, who gets up a lot of threes playing off of Dwight Howard in the post. Next question is from Chris Broyley. Who do you think gets more run, Battier when his shot comes back, or Miller? You pick up defense with Battier, but you gain three-point shooting and rebounding with Miller. Minutes for both seem to be limited right now, though. Well, tonight there was an opportunity for Spoelstra to get both of those guys out on the court in the fourth quarter. Right now, Shane's shot is just betraying him. I saw him, and you saw him too, miss a wide-open layup. It was contested, but again, you're 6'8", you're at the rim. You're supposed to make a layup. And he blew up a bunny layup, and thankfully LeBron was swooping in from behind him to finish with a dunk. So, and then he turned around and missed the three-pointer a couple of possessions later. So right now, Shane Battier is shooting 31% from the field. His offense is betraying him right now, but he still brings you a lot of defensive toughness, and that's going to keep him on the court. But again, it looks like Mike Miller is the choice right now. He's going to be the choice. This was his role to begin with. And I remember when Shane was signed for that 3-year, $3 million a year contract, and James Jones was brought back, and all the talk was about Mike Miller possibly being placed on the amnesty waiver. Mike felt like, hey, there are a lot of wings here, but again, these guys have to earn the right to take my spot. And so far, they hadn't earned that, and that's something that's going to have to happen as we move forward. But Mike is the guy right now. He's going to continue to be the guy at this point. I'll take a couple more questions. Fred Perdue asks, the Heat have yet to find a way to just effectively close games and dominate. Well, I'm going to stop that question right there, because I totally disagree with that. This Miami Heat team has been effective at stopping teams and dominating in the fourth quarter. We just saw two examples of that. So as we get ready to wind down the show, we'll move forward to this 6-game road trip that the Miami Heat is about to embark on. This is their first set of back-to-back-to-back games. They start off in Orlando Wednesday. They go to Washington on Friday, Atlanta Sunday, and then that starts the 3 games in 3-night swing where that'll take them to Milwaukee. Yes, those Milwaukee Bucks that are 2-0 against the Heat. And then after that, they go to Indiana before wrapping the trip up against these very same Cleveland Cavaliers 10 days out, 9 days out from here. So this could be a potentially tough stretch for the Heat. Right now they're rolling. They found their rhythm. They're finding their rotation. But we'll see how it goes because, again, these teams, this back-to-back-to-back has been brutal on some teams. There are a lot of injuries going on throughout the league right now. The Miami Heat is as healthy as they've been, and as they move forward, they want to continue to keep this rhythm going. So that's where things stand with this Miami Heat team after Tuesday night's 107-91 victory over the Cleveland Cavaliers. They're back at it tomorrow in Orlando, Wednesday in Orlando against the Magic. Dwight's still there, so that's going to be a problem potentially for Miami, and they're going to have to continue to find a way to figure out how to slow down Dwight Howard. So for ESPN.com's Heat Index, the post-game Temp check, I'm Mike Wallace. Check out our coverage of the Heat tomorrow on our website with Brian Windhorse's story and Tom Habistro's grades. Until next time, signing off. Thanks a lot for joining us, and come back and see us again.